King here, guys, back again to bring you what I hope is literally the final part of this video. I did not think it would go on for so bloody long, but here we are. But yeah, the good thing about this final part is I'm going to also be talking about some new leaks from Dusk Golem after I go through some old stuff from Andi, which validates some of the stuff Dusk was saying. But yeah, like I said, this video is about confirming some of the stuff that he has proven to be correct and going through some of the BS he has said that is a bit dodgy or contradictory, to say the least, in terms of his flip-flopping and that. But yeah, we've already shown, well, at least I've showcased here, that there's a lot of stuff he has proven to be right. And there was a lot of stuff that wasn't initially from him at all. And there was a lot of stuff that was actually posted by other people who a lot of people assumed or associated with Dusk Golem that wasn't the case. And then, of course, some of the videos or, some of the parts or posts where it's like, yeah, no, this doesn't make any sense. This is BS. You're clearly full of shit. Or your sources are actually very, very outdated and very, very wrong. And you basically need to get new sources. That's pretty much what it is. It's like you need better sources because they're clearly not up to scrap. But yeah, moving on to this final part. I hope you like this. I hope you enjoy this. Remember to like and subscribe, guys. And yeah, let's do this. Let's end this. Hopefully this will be a shorter part, fingers crossed. So yeah, Screenfire Germany, info on Resident Evil 9, Code Veronica Remake, RE0 Remake, future remakes, remaster collection, Capcom USA, influence, cancelled games and more. Rumor. A few days ago, a leak was posted on this subreddit based on a video from Screenfire Germany. Unfortunately, the post contained mistranslations and combined personal speculation opinion with insider information. The post also didn't cover the whole video. In the video, which is the recording of a live stream, Andi from Screenfire Germany answers questions from his community. I have watched, I'm German, and combined all the insider information received from his sources. Some of his answers are vague, and it's not 100% clear where info from sources ends and speculation begins. I tried my best to separate it and only include insider info in this post. The video was published on May 12. Andi's last update from sources was around February-March 2024, as stated in another video. Okay, so keep those dates in mind and let's go through this. Resident Evil 9 began development as a multiplayer game in 2016-2017. The development was restarted at the end of 2018 and multiplayer was abandoned. Okay, so this actually matches up with what Dusk said about RE9 having entered development in 2018. So, and it also does match and confirm what Capcom said about this game originally being a multiplayer. But apparently this version of the game was abandoned in 2018 and the version of RE9 we're getting started development in 2018, around 2018. Which means it's very possible that Jill was in fact in the original version of that game as well, in the single player mode, but then was scrapped. Because you got to keep in mind, this version of the game that we're getting now, if this is true, I think it is, means it would have been in development for 7 years then. So what, 2019, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 by the time it comes out, 7 years. And in those 7 years, they would have had to have done a lot of changes. Remember, keep in mind, Resident Evil 2 Remake's final version came out within a year. Within a year. They were going back and forth on a lot of things in those 5 years before they finally sat down, crumbled together what they had and put it all together. So it could be a case that there's a lot of deleted stuff with this final version of RE9 that we're getting. And one of those being that Jill was in fact in the game and is not anymore. So yeah, I think this is legit. Leon is the main character of the game, yes. Jill will support him as a co-op partner similar to what Sheva was to Chris in Resident Evil 5. Well, let me go backtrack. First of all, Leon is not the main character of the game. Grace is. But he is in the game. I think we can... it could end up being Kevin. Here's the thing. The only reason I'm saying Leon is in the game is because of Nick's resume and the director following Nick on Instagram. For all we know, Nick could actually be playing a different character. And it could be Kevin Ryman, for example. It might not even be Leon. So that's actually a thing to consider, perhaps, maybe. Leon might not be in the game because we've had many returning RE actors in the RE Engine games playing and voicing different characters. So it wouldn't be out of the realm of impossibility. But yeah, let's go through this again. Leon is the main character. Jill will support him as a co-op partner, similar to what Sheva was to Chris in RE5. Last year in August, Andi received information that Jill could potentially be cut as a co-op partner. So if this was posted in 2024, February, March, then Jill was cut in 2023. So very possible. Very likely, very possible maybe. So that means the game would have been very far ahead at some point, to the point where, oh, it could be a case that Joel's role was really small that they could easily cut it. Resident Evil 9 will release in the first quarter of 2025. Not true, didn't happen. The game was delayed. We know it was delayed, and we know it was meant to come out in 2025. I think at this point in time it was true, but the game was delayed. Why it was delayed, I don't know. I don't think we have a good idea why it was delayed. You kind of have to wonder, why did they delay it? Various remakes. Little to no content for upcoming remakes due to higher budgets than Resident Evil 2 and 3 Remake. I call bullshit on this now. Obviously, I do think there's going to be a bit of a higher budget, yes, but I don't think that there's going to be, oh, they're not going to cut content. They're going to cut content. They're going to 100% cut content, and they're going to change stuff, and they're going to reimagine stuff. That is the whole point of these games, like these remakes, because they're not really remakes, they're reimaginings. There's no point making a one-on-one remake. You want to be remaking it and reimagining it and changing a lot of things to fit the new continuity and streamline the story, basically. Resident Evil 1 remake is being discussed but not in development at the moment. So this could be true. I do think it is being discussed, because if they're doing a Resident Evil 0 remake, then they're 100% going to have to sit down and do another RE1 remake to fit that continuity. No more content for Resident Evil 3 Remake. The game saw well enough and Capcom will revisit it. Yeah, that ended up being true, we know, because, you know, there was a lot of rumors or leaks about a Nemesis edition that ended up being bullshit. They're not doing that. The final version we got is the final version, unfortunately. Capcom USA has a say in creative decisions. Resident Evil 5 Remake is a hot topic. Capcom USA has concerns about the racism controversy. Capcom Japan is less concerned about this. Capcom wants to remake Resident Evil 5 but is unsure about how and when. Ashley Graham's pop star outfit was removed from the Resident Evil 4 remake because Capcom USA considered it too revealing. It was removed shortly before launch. I'm going to say this is properly true. And the reason for that is because of what we've seen with Dead Rising Remake and the Onimusha remasters, where they have censored a lot of things with those games. And if you keep in mind what's going on in the current world right now, in terms of with anime and video games and this whole, you know, censorship bullshit, it does feel like this could potentially be 100% legit. Like, if you guys want more on that stuff and know what's going on, just go on Chibi Reviews and check his stuff out, because he goes into a lot of this stuff that's currently happening. But I do think this is legit. I think this is true, just from what we've seen with Dead Rising and Onimusha and probably some other games, because like they were censored. I get some people are gonna be like, oh, you're a Gunu or whatever. Like, here's the thing. Nobody wants censorship. Nobody wants censorship. If I'm going to play the original version of a game, I want to play the version that's uncensored. I don't want to play it and realize, oh, this is different or this is cut and that. It doesn't matter. Like, people like that stuff. It sells. People are into that. Me personally, I don't like censorship in any form. Don't censor shit. I don't like it. Simple as that. If a game has gore and blood, I want to see it. Don't cut that out. It's like when you're sitting watching a movie on TV these days, they will censor stuff and it's like, why is that cut now? It's annoying. It's off-putting. It makes you not want to play or watch the film or the game. Do you know what I mean? So, what's the point, right? A call was put out for producer and director for RE6 Remake, but no one was interested. Probably most likely BS. But at the same time, I've talked about this topic before. I actually gone through this before, like last year. But yeah, we'll never know really. So, cancelled games. Resident Evil Revelations 3 was in development as a Nintendo Switch exclusive starring Rebecca Chambers. Andi has heard that the game was cancelled. So yeah, this is something Dusk himself and Jesse themselves, reported that this game was there was a Revelations 3. It started Rebecca and it was going to be a Switch 1. Andi has heard the same thing. The game was cancelled. Okay. Resident Evil Hank was never a Hank game, and he doesn't know what happened to it. No one knows what happened to this. No one even knows if this really existed, or if Capcom ever really did anything with this. Resident Evil Outrage was a Wesker game. Andi is not sure what it looked like exactly. It was cancelled because the quality was too low. So this matches up with what Dusk said, that Outrage was a Wesker game and that it was a multiplayer game that was meant to accompany Revelations 3. Because here we got Revelations 3 as a separate thing, and then we got Outrage as a separate thing. So it's very possible this is 100% legit, and Outrage probably was like a multiplayer, because we've seen Capcom do this before. They did RE-verse with Village, they did RE Resistance with RE3 Remake, so it's very possible this was a thing. Resident Evil Code Veronica Remake. Resident Evil Code Veronica Remake has been in development for 18 months. Not sure. I think by the time this was revealed, I think we did get confirmation that yes, that a remake was happening. But you got to keep in mind, this was Andi's post from February March 2024. Dusk revealed the remakes in May. Okay, this post is saying that this game has been in development far longer than, so it's probably true. Maybe, maybe not. Harabayashi is working on it. I don't know if this was true at the time, because currently Dusk has said that it's actually the directors of Resident Evil 2 and 4 Remake that are doing Code Veronica. So this is probably bullshit, or at some point Code Veronica changed directors. Next game to release after Resident Evil 9. So this is something Dusk himself has actually said as well, that the next game after RE9 is Code Veronica Remake. Which, to be fair, I find a bit weird, but it also kind of makes sense. You know, you want to release the next main lane title. You know, you want to release the next game made by the main team, and then follow up with the next game made by the side team. So maybe that's what they're doing. And it's kind of the same thing that happened with the original Code Veronica and RE0 release. We had Code Veronica, and then we had Resident Evil 0. So maybe they're following the same pattern here. Because you got to keep in mind, a lot of the things that are revealed in Code Veronica would sort of be expanded in RE0 Remake. And this is the thing as well. One of the things that they can actually improve with Resident Evil Code Veronica Remake is reveal James Marcus in that game and reveal that he's one of the founders. And obviously, that game already talks about the mother virus. You can reveal it's called Progenitor. We know it's come from Africa, etc., etc. So these are a lot of things they can talk about in there and expand on it. And then we get 0, and it expands on a lot of that stuff that's mentioned in Code Veronica. So I think it could work very well that way, in fact. Moving on, opening sequence has been changed. Claire visits Umbrella HQ in Paris with a group of tourists and sneaks off to steal information. She gets caught and sent to Rockford Island. This section is allegedly playable. This replaces the helicopter opening. No idea if this is true or not. We'll have to wait and see. Steve is more likable. I think this is something Dusk has recently confirmed as well in a post. Rodrigo's role has been expanded, similar to Lewis in RE4 Remake. No idea if this is true. Claire now fights Alexia. Chris fights Wesker. This is something Dusk himself has actually confirmed, that Chris no longer fights, Form 1 or Alexia at all, and that he fights Wesker. So, yeah, I think this makes a lot more sense. I know some people are probably going to hate this, but I'll go through it when I get to Dusk's post regarding this. Resident Evil 0 Remake. Resident Evil 0 Remake has been in development at M2 since 2023. Most likely true, properly. Yeah, I can see that being legit. Though Dusk has said it has been updated or rebooted. So it kind of makes me wonder what's going on there now. Have they decided to turn this from a side game to a bigger game, perhaps? Or maybe it was too similar to RE3 Remake and they decided to make it a bit more faithful. I don't know. I would prefer a revision of this game and an expansion of this game. I want more Bravo team. That's what I want. I want more Bravo team in this game. Partner zapping system returns. The game will have online co-op. We can't confirm if this is true or not. We can't confirm. Resident Evil Revelations 1 Remake has been discussed at Capcom. Andy doesn't know the outcome. We don't know if this is true either. You know, if the Revelations 3 stuff is legit and they cancelled it, it makes me wonder if they're ever going to go back to Revelations. Or maybe it is a case of they're waiting to remake these other games, and then after they finish remaking RE5, they're actually going to go back and remake Revelations 1 and 2 on a higher budget, and then they're going to release Revelations 3 as well, and then we get RE6 Remake. That's a thing that could happen. I could see them doing that potentially, possibly, which I'm all for if they do that, definitely. This one is supposed to be taken with a massive grain of salt. According to Andy, unconfirmed rumors have stated that the 2011 tsunami in Japan flooded offices and files for Resident Evil 1, 2, 3 and Outbreak were lost. This is why there won't be a remaster collection unless Capcom decides to use AI in the future. Dusk himself said this was BS. I believe this was BS as well, because I don't think the Capcom offices were located where the tsunami hit back in 2011. And we just got Resident Evil 2 and 3 on the PSN, so clearly they have the source codes for this. We're just waiting for Outbreak and the other side games to be released on there in the future. And yeah, that's pretty much all of Andy's information there. Obviously, some of it might be true, some of it might not be. But yeah, I think it does add some legitimacy to some of the stuff that Dusk was saying earlier on. But yeah, moving on to the Dusk Golem leaks that he has posted regarding Code Veronica recently and how this matches up with some of the stuff here. So yeah, I'm going to answer 4 Code Veronica Remake questions, then no more until RE9. Resident Evil Requiem is what's out next. What I'm looking forward to right now, it's where my focus will be. So we'll ignore any Code Veronica questions until after RE9 is out. This was posted on August 23rd, 2025, literally a few days ago. I want to call bullshit on this because he's clearly going to still talk about Code Veronica and RE0. Like, let's see if he keeps his word here, yeah? Code Veronica Remake, not only have I heard it's ahead of its internal schedule, but meanwhile RE0 got delayed recently after some form of dev reboot late last year. With that in mind, I think it's far more likely Code Veronica is first. Even though originally it was the other way around. So actually, in fact, Dusk said RE0 was going to come out first and Code Veronica was not going to. But things have changed apparently. Okay. I actually can kind of see this being the case. I can. Steve will have a crush on Claire, but it will be played more innocently. His perverseness is toned down. In its place, he'll be more abrasive, overly curious, and not understanding personal boundaries well. Okay, here's hoping they make Steve into a better character, fingers crossed. Wesker will play a much bigger part because the HCF, the Hive Capture Force, has been upgraded to a main plot point in Code Veronica Remake. We're going to get their full scoop, more scenes with Wesker and the HCF, and they play a bigger role in the story. I hope this is legit. This is kind of something I wanted to see expanded on. I'm hoping this is legit. I'm hoping this is true. I'm hoping this will play a role in the RE5 remake where we have a continuation of the HCF going forward. Like many people predict, Wesker's fight with Chris is now a boss fight. He no longer fights Alexia. Okay. Okay, fair enough. This matches up with what the other rumor said, that Claire now fights Alexia, which kind of makes sense. Sister versus sister, and Chris fighting Wesker. I like that. That's something I personally wanted. Rockford Island is semi-open world, and Claire has a motorcycle she repairs early in the player uses to the player uses to traverse it. Now RE9 time. So this part here feels a bit BS. So Claire's gonna have a motorcycle she's gonna ride. The only way I see this being true is as if they're gonna use the motorcycle to traverse to the prison to the palace. Because if you guys remember, there's this big backtracking bullshit that's in the original game that is just far too long and far too much. Because like the amount of times you have to go back and forth between the prison and the palace area is so boring and so long. So I could see that being a case where they've just added maybe a fast cycle element. That's what I think it's going to be. I don't think you're going to actually ride a motorcycle and be able to go through it and that. I think this is just something they're going to add in as a fast cycle thing. And there you go. Like, it just saves time to traverse from one area to the next. I think that's what it's going to be. Because I'm sure the motorcycle isn't going to be in the Antarctic. That wouldn't make sense, right? So this guy asks, who directs RE Code Veronica? And Dusk Golem did reply, it's Yoshihiro Apple and Kazunori Kaido, same duo who directed RE2 and RE4, which is good news. Which is good news because Apple, if you guys remember, I think did help or co-directed RE5 originally, and he directed Revelations 2. So this guy is all about trying to maintain story elements and continuing story and plots. And yeah, the direction for RE2 Remake was pretty good, and the direction to RE4 Remake was even better. So obviously we can hopefully see more of a direct sort of connection with Code Veronica to RE2 Remake and to RE4 Remake, and hopefully to RE5 Remake going forward. I still hope we get a super cool cinematic fight between Alexia and Wesker. And Dust says, I typoed it, but the name is Alexia. For future reference, not enough characters to really add this. I meant Chris no longer fights Alexia, not Wesker. So that confirms that. Yes, he doesn't fight Alexia, he fights Wesker. Okay, that's that. And that's pretty much the leak for Code Veronica, which sort of matches up with some of the stuff we got from Andi back in February, March 2024. So, yeah. I mean, Dust could just be looking at that and adding his own things to it. But I think this might be somewhat true, perhaps. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how much of this does end up being true. But that's that. That's that. And yeah, guys, that's it. That's my post. That's the final part of this video. We went through all of this. I brought up all the stuff that he was right about, and I brought up all the stuff that felt very contradictory, and some of his more BS posts. And then, of course, some of the newer stuff and matching up with some of the past stuff. So, yeah, that's that, really. We can confirm that Dusk Golem is 50-50. He's very 50-50, and he is very, very bloody cocky at times. And his sources are clearly 50-50. Like, he needs to get better sources that know stuff early on. And if he does know information very early on, he should just bloody post it. And then make sure to update it regularly and be like, okay, yeah, this was a theory, or this is not true anymore, etc., etc. And maybe try and give us some evidence, because you just saying stuff with no actual evidence to back it up is never going to make him sound legit. That's the thing. That's the problem. And that's the issue here. So, because there's a lot of like, he says it and then there's no evidence, because then he can easily then backtrack. But yeah, we've proven some of the stuff. We've proven some of the misleads. We've proven some of the... So yeah, definitely I'd say a 50-50 leaker here at this point. He's gotten a lot of stuff right and he's gotten a lot of stuff wrong. And now it's just a waiting game now to see whether a lot of the stuff with what he said about RE9 ends up being legit, as well as some of the stuff he said about RE, Code Veronica, and RE0. Only time will tell at this point. But yeah, guys, I hope you liked this video. As always, remember to like and subscribe, please. And yeah, I shall see you when I shall see you. Take care and bye.